Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're just seeing my face for the first time, my name is Chisom. Thank you so much for stopping by. On this channel, I share sewing tutorial videos and other related fashion content. If you would love to be part of this growing community, all you need to do is to click the subscribe button and join us. On this tutorial, we'll be learning how to cut and sew this beautiful dress that I am putting on right here. If this looks like something you would love to learn, sit back and watch this video till the end. I began with marking a starting line at the top of my paper, and this line is going to be the shoulder line. Now I'll place my tape on that shoulder line to get my armhole line, which is 8.5 inches, my bust point line, my under bust, my half length plus half inch joining allowance to the skirt part. I'll go ahead and rule out these lines and also label them accordingly. On the shoulder line, I'll measure my shoulder, divide by 2, and also on the chest line, I'll slant my shoulder by 1 inch and connect from that point to meet the chest line. Now I'll come in by 3 inches from the center front, which I'll connect to the shoulder slope. Next, I'll take my bust measurement, divide by 4 on the chest line, and then I'll go ahead and get the midpoint of the armhole line to curve out my armhole. I'll take my nipple to nipple measurement on the waistline and on the bust point and rule it straight. Now to take my dart on, I'll use 0.75 on the waistline and then connect to the bust point. For the neckline, I used 3.5 inches for the width and also 3.5 inches for the depth, and I went ahead to curve out the neckline. Next, I'll get the midpoint of the shoulder. The remaining shoulder I have here, I'll divide it into 2 and I'll connect the mid shoulder to the bust point. The next thing I did was to measure my waist divide by 4 on the half length. I'll replace the dart I have here, which is 1.5, and then I'll connect from the waist to the chest line since I already have my bust circumference measurements right there. Now I'll take my side dart, which is the difference between the front and the back bodies, and I'll connect it to meet the dart point. So this side is going off. I'm going to shape my under bust, and to do that I used 0.75 on both sides of the dart leg, and then I'm going to curve out from the bust point to the under bust on both sides and then take it straight from the under bust down to the waist. For the over bust, I'll go up by 3.5 inches from the bust point. This is where I want my yoke to start, okay? Now on that point, I'll take 0.5 inch on both sides of that leg and connect it back into the bust point. Please watch carefully how I am placing my curve ruler. Okay, the curvy part is always facing the bust area. Now for the deepness of the yoke, I came down by 6 inches from the neck depth, and I'll connect that point to this dart leg that comes towards the center front. Then this other dart that goes towards the side, I'll blend it into the armhole like you see me doing right now. I'll go ahead and label my yoke, and this is basically all for the front pattern. Please note that there is no allowance on this pattern yet, so when I am cutting out on my fabric, I'll be sure to add all the necessary allowance that I need. Don't forget to close up the side dart so that at the end of the day the side of the front and the back will match together. So I'll close the side dart, tape it down, and then I'll go ahead and blend in this side that is not matching up. So guys, while we are focused on watching to see how I cut out the pattern carefully in order to avoid any error, if you're yet to subscribe to this channel, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button now. Just your own way of encouraging me to keep showing up here at all times with a very lovely tutorial. Also, if there's a tutorial you would love me to put up here on this channel, you can go ahead and send to me via my Instagram page at somiglam, and I'll gladly look into it. Now for the back, I have marked my shoulder line, my armhole line, and the back waist length right here. Now on the waistline from the center back, I'll come in by 1 inch and connect straight to the top of the pattern. This is to avoid zipper bulge on the back pattern. Okay, it will help the back to lay flat. Next, I'll mark half of my shoulder measurement on the shoulder line and on the chest line. I'll slant the shoulder by 1 inch and connect straight to the chest line. I'll come in by 3 inches from the center and connect it to the shoulder slope. Get the mid armhole to curve out my armhole. Then I'll impute my bust divide by 4. From this line, I'll measure my bust divide by 4 and mark, then cover the armhole. I'm going to mark my nipple to nipple measurement divide by 2 on the waistline and 1 inch below the back chest line. I'll connect the line straight. I'll take my dart on the back waistline. I used 0.75 and then connected it to the dart point. Now I'll take my waist measurement and also not forgetting to replace the dart there and connect to the chest line. I'll take my neck width measurement and then I'll use 1.5 inch for my neck depth and then curved out my neckline. Next, I'll just take the darts to half of the shoulder point, just like I did for the front, and that's it for the back pattern. I'll go ahead and cut it out now. Also, not forgetting that when I'm cutting this out on my fabric, I will add all the necessary allowance that is required. Now for the skirt part, I am placing my pattern paper on fold for the front skirt block. Now I'll go ahead and rule my waistline at the top of the paper, and from that line I'll measure my waist to hip measurements and waist to knee plus the full length of the skirt. Now this is the full length minus the half length, that is going to be your skirt length. Okay, so I'll take my waist measurements divide by 4 on the waistline and take my hips measurements divide by 4 on the hips line. What I have on the hips line, I'll minus 1.5 inches from it and place that on the knee line. Now I'm going to connect the points together. If you want a dart on your skirt block, you use the same nipple to nipple measurements you used for the upper part and rule it from the waist to the hip line. Now the dart is supposed to stop 2 inches above the hip line. Just take your dart on both sides on the waistline and connect 2 inches above the hip line. Now this dart is for the purpose of this tutorial. I am not going to be needing it after all, so I just want to show you how you can put your dart for it to be able to match with your upper parts. So I'm going to cut out the pattern now and open it up for the alteration. I've opened up the pattern now. I'll rule out the knee line because this is where I want the net to start. Now there's no much process to this. I actually free-handed it. I'll just take it from the right hemline to the knee to the left part of the knee. Okay, you can either choose to take it from the right to the left or from the left to the right. So I'm just going to curve it out from the hemline right to the knee line left, like I am doing right now. So go ahead and adjust this to fit whichever shape that you want. Now this is the net part, and this other part is going to be the fabric part. I'll go ahead and cut it out now and then proceed to cutting them all out on fabric. I've cut them all out on fabric. Here are the top parts and this is the back pieces. I'll take them aside now. So we'll be cutting out the padding for the front bustier part. So this is the wording and I'm going to cut out with the pattern paper. I'll cut out a shape like I am making on the pattern paper. Now all the padding I'll cut out is going to stop at the under bust. I'll cut two of these for the two parts that I have on fabric, and this one also will end on the under bust but it's going to be on fold. Now I'm placing the center front part on the wording, making sure the wording ends on the under bust. I'm pinning it down to keep the paper in place so it doesn't move, because I want this wording to be the exact shape I have on the paper. Now I'm using this paper to cut out the wording because I don't want the wording to get to the allowance. I mean the parts I'll be sewing on the fabric. So that is why I am using the paper to cut out the wording. So I'm making sure I am tracing the shape I have on the paper on the wording, so by the time I place them on the fabric everything will align properly. This is the other part and the wording is also on fold, as you can see. So I'll have two of these for the two parts of the side front or the middle front. So I'll cut it out, take the main one away and trace out the shape I have marked on the paper right on the wording. Now this is optional. Okay, the type of wording I am using, this is a medium thick wording. Is not very light and is not very thick, so this totally depends on what you want or what you like. So just watch what I am doing carefully. There is no way I can explain this to you except you watch me do it like I am doing right now. So after cutting them out, I'll go ahead and gum them on the fabric. Now there is a shiny part on this wording. That is the part that will be facing the wrong side of your fabric. Then you go ahead and gum them with your iron. So this is how I place them on the fabric, making sure I still have my joining allowance. Okay, so I am done gumming the wording to the fabric. I'll go ahead and join the middle part to the center part on both sides. You see, I'll place them right sides facing right side like so, and then stitch from top to bottom. After I'm done stitching the main fabric, I am going to stitch the lining pieces the same way I have stitched the fabric. So I'll head over to the sewing machine right now and join them just the way I am demonstrating right in this video. I've joined the front pieces together and this is what is looking like at this point, and I also iron open the seam lines. I also joined the lining pieces like I said. Now I'll go ahead and join the back pieces together the same way I have joined the front pieces. You can see the way I have arranged them. That is exactly the way I'm going to join them on the shoulder dart area. Now I have joined the back pieces together and iron open the seam lines as well as the lining pieces. The next thing I'm going to do is to attach the yoke to the front part. So I'll get the yoke and face it right side, matching the right side of the bustier. I'll make sure I match the center points together, the center of the top to the center of the yoke. Okay, so now the attachment of this yoke is one that you need to do carefully. So I think I recommend using needle and thread to sew out the part that will be difficult for you to run your machine through, especially this middle part. Okay, so you can use your needle and thread to sew this middle part up to the point where it will be easy for you to run your machine thread on from the middle to one side of the bustier and back to the middle again to the other side. So whichever one works for you is fine. Okay, I'll go ahead and attach the yoke now and I'll be right back. I've attached the yoke to the top and this is what it is looking like now. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to use the lining piece to cover up the inside of the top. So I'll make sure I take the yoke away and place the lining right side facing right side of the fabric. I'll pin it. Now if you've been watching most of my tutorials, I have always explained in detail how to cover up the inside of a bustier with a lining. So I have pinned it in place. I'll go ahead and sew on the top part, so I'll be able to flip the lining inside. Coming back to the skirt part, I have the front skirt block here, the Ankara part and the lace part. So I'll go ahead and take away the pattern paper, so I'll be able to join the lace part to the Ankara part. So I'm going to match them right side facing right side. On that part where I'll be joining the lace to the Ankara, I added 0.5 inches joining allowance. So I'll place the lace on the Ankara like so, and I'm going to stitch from the top to the bottom or from the bottom to the top with 1/2 inch. Then after I'm done, I'll get the back pieces of the skirt block and place them side by side, and I'll go ahead and join the sides of the back and the front together. After joining the sides of the skirts together, I'll open it up and I'll be attaching the upper part to the lower part. Now I'll get the top part and match it on the skirt part. So because the skirt does not have any darts, I am going to focus on making sure the sides are matching properly. Okay, so I'll match the side of the skirt and the side of the top and joined with 1/2 inch, and then I'll also join the lining parts the same way I joined the fabric. Now I have joined the top and the skirt together as well as the lining piece. The next thing I'm going to do is to fix my zipper at the back. So here is the zipper I'll be fixing on the back part. Note that I am going to be attaching this zipper only on the fabric, and afterwards I will use the lining piece to close the center back area, just like I always do in most of my videos. Then I'll go ahead and close the remaining parts of the center back and leave a space for the back slit. Now I've attached the zipper to the center back, and the next thing I'll do is to put my hand through the armhole to bring it out on the wrong side. This is to enable me to use the lining piece to cover up the center back and the neckline. So I'll push one side of the lining to match right side with the fabric, right side of the lining matching right side of the fabric from the back neckline. I'm going to stitch it from the back neckline all the way down to the center back and the bottom. After I'm done with this part, I'll do the other part. Here is the outcome with the finishing of the lining. The next thing to do is to fix the sleeves. But before I do that, I will be attaching the puff on the sleeve first. Now I have this Ankara for the puff that I have cut out. The width of this Ankara is 50 inches while the length is 11 inches. I'll be gathering it on the sleeve to give it a puffy effect. Now to fix this on the sleeve, I'm going to open up the sleeve, and then from the sleeve head I will come down by 8.5 inches because I want the puff to end at 8 inches from the top of the sleeve. So since I'll be attaching the sleeve to the armhole by 0.5 inches, I'll come down by 8.5 inches from the sleeve head and mark it. Then I'm going to place the Ankara on it like so. I'll stitch on the lower part first. So I'll place it like so and gather it. After gathering it on that spot, I'll push it upwards to the sleeve head and gather it on the sleeve head as well. After gathering the Ankara on the sleeve, this is how it's looking like. Okay, now the next thing I'll do is to close the side of the sleeve and fix the armhole to the dress, and then I'll show you the final result. Here is the final result, guys. Thank you so much for watching to the end of this video. If you got value from this tutorial, don't forget to like this video, comment in the comment section, and if you're here to subscribe to my channel, please hit the subscribe button now. Thank you, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.